Hello everyone, it is a beautiful day for another knowledge lesson about immigration. Today's lesson is going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to focus on the United States government and how our government works. To start off, the leader of our country, is the leader of our country a king? No? What do we call the leader of our country? We call the leader of our country our president. And where does the president live? You've got it. He lives in what we call the White House in Washington, D.C. In our skills lessons, we've been learning about the War of 1812. And at the beginning, we talked a little bit about the United States government and how it was very different from governments of most countries at that time. Most countries at that time had what we call a monarchy, where it is ruled. That means that it is a country ruled by a king or a queen. But the United States was a little bit different. Does anyone remember what we call the type of government that the United States has? It's been a long time since we've talked about this one. We talked about it a little bit when we talked about ancient Greece. This was the type of government that was developed in Athens. We call that type of government a democracy. A democracy means that the government is run by the people. In the United States, we have a type of democracy, a democratic republic. When the United States first started, our founding fathers signed a very important piece of paper that said that we would no longer be a part of England. We were declaring our independence from the country of England. What was that important paper called? I know we've talked about a lot of important papers, but if you said the Declaration of Independence, you are correct. Do you remember the other important piece of paper that we talked about that was the framework for our government and laid out all of the laws of the land? That one was called the Constitution. The Constitution protects all of our rights as citizens of the United States. Remember, rights are special privileges or things that we can say, do, and believe that the government or anyone else cannot take away from us. Today we're going to talk about how the Constitution helps protect our rights and the rights of immigrants who move to the United States as well. Before we get into our story today, though, we need to go over our vocabulary words. Constitution. The Constitution is the basic plan for the laws and government of a country or other organization. James Madison is often called the father of the Constitution because he wrote the United States Constitution. Amendments. Amendments are changes or improvements. Cassie and Devin made several amendments to the list of books they wanted to read during their summer vacation. Today we'll talk about some amendments that have been made to the Constitution. Consent. Consent means approval or permission. Peter's mom gave her consent, allowing him to go to the arcade with his friends. Disagreements. Disagreements are arguments or differences of opinion. Sometimes Gabriella and her brother have disagreements, but they talk and work things out. Think about a time when you have had a disagreement with someone. The word disagreement has a prefix, "-is". The prefix "-is" is often added to the beginning of a word to mean the opposite of or not. So disagreements are the opposite of agreements. I'm going to say a couple of words with that same prefix at the beginning. I want you to tell me what those words mean. Our first one is disrespecting. Disrespecting means not respecting. What about disorder? If something is in disorder, it means that it is not in order. Disliked. Disliked means not liked. And our last one, disorganized. Disorganized would mean not organized. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights are two of the most important documents in U.S. history. A constitution is a document that describes the basic plan for the laws and government of a country. It explains the main laws of a country and how its government works. That means that the U.S. Constitution states the basic laws of the United States and explains how the U.S. government works. Today, these two important documents are located at the National Archives building in Washington, D.C. One of the men who helped write the U.S. Constitution was James Madison. A small, quiet man, James Madison was born in 1751 in Virginia. He did not enjoy crowds, nor did he enjoy speaking to them. When he did, he had such a soft voice that listeners had to lean closer in order to hear Madison's words. Yet many people took the trouble to do so because they thought Madison's words were worth hearing. He was well known for having great ideas and making the most confusing problems clear. Often at the end of a conversation, this polite, quiet man would inspire people to think seriously about his important ideas. That is what happened when leaders of the new nation, called the United States of America, met in 1787 to decide what sort of government they wanted to form. This was just 10 years after the colonists declared their independence from England in 1776. Leaders came from all parts of the country and had all sorts of ideas. In the end, however, Madison's ideas had the greatest influence or effect in shaping the organization of the new American government. For example, Madison's idea of having 3 branches or sections of government, a president, a Congress, and a Supreme Court, is very important today. Together, these 3 branches in the American government balance each other's power so that no one branch can be too powerful and make all of the nation's decisions. When it was time to write down what they had agreed upon, Madison did more than anyone else to write the Constitution of the United States. James Madison's job was not done after the Constitution was written. In 1789, Madison helped write an extra part to add to the Constitution called the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Remember, amendments are changes or additions, so the Bill of Rights adds on to the Constitution. The Bill of Rights protects the rights of Americans, such as freedom of speech and freedom of religion. We talked about how separatists in England were persecuted in their homeland for having a different religion from the king. The U.S. government, or the U.S. Constitution, protects the rights of American citizens to practice their own religion. Over the years, as the United States changes, Americans have found that the Constitution needs to change a little bit too. To do this, Americans add amendments, which are changes or additions to the Constitution. The amendments are believed to make the Constitution better for the lives of American people. James Madison's fine work in developing the U.S. Constitution earned him the nickname the Father of the Constitution. Later, James Madison was elected to serve as the fourth President of the United States. Today, hundreds of years later, America's government and laws are based on what Madison and his fellow founding fathers created. The U.S. Constitution is the highest law of the land, so no one and no state is allowed to pass a law that goes against the Constitution's principles. But what does the Constitution say? Well, right from the start, authors made a bold or brave statement. The Constitution begins with a very famous introduction called the preamble. A preamble is an introduction or opening. It starts, "We the people of the United States." This means that the greatest power behind the American government is the American people. All citizens, rather than a king or a queen, or just the founding fathers who wrote the Constitution. The government of the United States represents all of the citizens of the United States. Citizens of the U.S. can vote to change how our government does things. This is called the consent of the governed. In return for this power, the people agree to live by and follow the laws. So if I ask you to borrow a book and you say yes, then you are giving me consent or approval to borrow your book. Who is it that gives consent and is the greatest power behind the American government? The people. That's why our preamble to our Constitution starts with "We the people." The preamble goes on to say, citizens want the Constitution to make the nation run fairly for everyone, and the states will unite or work together to help make the nation work smoothly. The preamble, or introduction, to the Constitution also tells us that American laws or rules must protect the liberties or freedoms of all citizens, not just some citizens. It is an agreement the Constitution is our most important set of rules. The preamble says that the federal government will include an army, navy, and other military forces to protect Americans from enemies. It also says that the government and the laws are meant to protect the liberties or freedoms for Americans now and in the future. The rest of the Constitution goes on to describe the different things the government is supposed to do. The government makes laws and carries them out. It solves problems. And the government protects Americans from certain dangers. It tells us how we are supposed to make those things happen. The Constitution also created the office of the President of the United States, the Congress, and the Supreme Court, which are made up of people who try to follow the principles of the Constitution. One reason the writers of the Constitution are still so admired is that they did an amazing job of creating a form of government that would not only help solve the problems of their own time, but would also help solve all sorts of problems that they thought might come along later. Do you think it would be difficult to plan for problems that don't exist yet? How do you think the Constitution affects you today? Today, we, the people of the United States, have a Congress made up of people from every state.
We have a president to carry out those laws and courts to help us settle disagreements and keep the peace. Our country has military forces to protect us. Also, there are other parts of the government, all of which are based on the ideas that James Madison and other founding fathers wrote down over 200 years ago in the U.S. Constitution. As time goes on and our country grows, bringing new problems and wonderful new opportunities, new laws are being added to deal with problems and to protect the people. Whenever a new law is added, it is our job, our responsibility, to follow the new law or to speak out if we feel that the law does not agree with the principles of the Constitution. Although the Constitution was written over 200 years ago, it still tells us how our government is supposed to work, even today.
All right, my friends, we learned a lot about the Constitution today. My first question for you today is, who earned the nickname the father of the Constitution? You got it. It was James Madison. And why was he called the father of the Constitution? Because he wrote it. Why are the words "we the people" in the preamble so important and remembered by U.S. citizens? What was important about the words "we the people" at the beginning of the Constitution? Those words are important because they let everyone know that in America, the citizens are behind the power of the country, of the government. What are some things that the preamble and the Constitution say? What important things are in that document? There are lots of things we can say there. There are lots of important things in that document. Some of the things that are important in the Constitution says that the nation will run fairly for everyone, that American laws must protect the liberties and freedoms of all of the people can use the government to make laws and to carry them out, and there are rights listed to protect Americans from certain dangers. So again, what important document begins with the words "we the people"? What part of the Constitution? You've got it, it's the Constitution. What part of the Constitution? The preamble, or the beginning. I want you to turn to your neighbor or your parent or sibling or friend, whoever's helping you out today. I want you to tell them how the U.S. Constitution is important to you.
Go ahead and open up the PDF that is attached to this assignment. That page should look like this. This is labeled Class Constitution. It says, this Constitution is a document that guides our interactions with each other, our teacher, and all objects in the classroom. Most classrooms have a list of classroom rules. We can think of those rules as the Constitution of the classroom. Those are the laws that we have to follow in our classrooms in order to be members of those classrooms. Today, I want you to think of some amendments you would like to make to your classroom constitution. I want you to see if you can think of 3 different amendments or 3 new laws or rules that could be added to your classroom constitution or your classroom rule list. So we'll space these out a little bit. At least 3. You can propose more amendments. To propose an amendment means to suggest. You can propose more than 3 amendments, but I want you to see if you can think of at least 3 new rules that you would like to see added to your classroom constitution. Remember, our rules are ones that everyone in the classroom has to abide by, and they must be fair for everyone. They must also work to protect students and help them. If we were actually adding amendments to our classroom constitution, we would have all of the students vote on the proposed amendments or the amendments that you suggest or give an idea for. And if the majority of the students agreed with your amendments, then it would be added to the Constitution. Obviously, we can't vote on it since we're online, but I still want you to propose at least 3 different amendments, 3 different rules that you would like to see become a part of your class constitution. So this one's not too bad. We just need at least 3 sentences. You can propose more amendments if you would like. When you are done, go ahead and turn that one in, and you are finished with knowledge today. I will see you in our next lesson, my friends.